of related. Before, when I was observing the mind, I was observing the content of my thoughts or something like that. I was really trying to figure out what is going on inside the mind.
Right.
And now I felt, something is more spacious and I cannot really label anything.
Contents or the space?
The contents.
Right.
I can't say, a little bit, but mostly I felt like a flood of
Good.
whatever.
Good.
And then I thought about the resting in awareness, which I remember from last year, and I couldn't figure out how is it
We'll see
different.
that tomorrow. We'll see that tomorrow. So that's why I wanted to specifically do this now, so you have a bit of a taste of this. So tomorrow, when we do the resting in awareness, then we can compare.
Okay.
Are they the same or are they different? And we'll see that tomorrow morning. I think there was a question right down the back somewhere, yeah.
I wanted to ask, I looked at it somewhat as like virtual reality. Like, say you have a computer, you can use it to look at something that is real, or to take a photograph, but you can also, do like, I don't know if you saw that film, The Matrix.
Matrix, yeah.
You can do things that are not real. For me, that's the difference, that in my mind, I can think or behold things that I know are not real. For example, when I was thinking about space, for some reason, I was thinking of the place in the back.
Right.
And I saw there a photograph of the settlers who came to see, who came to settle. So for me, it was like opening up to like the time that has elapsed on that hill.
Right.
That also for me was the space of my mind.
Right. So the question, are you just making a comment or?
I'm asking, it's like, can you look at it as if it's a virtual reality? That sometimes used as awareness for something real, but sometimes you are like, you're being aware of things that happened in the past. Or
Sure.
They're not real in the sense that they're not in front of you.
So remember, the space of the mind is the space where everything appears. And what appears there, just because something appears doesn't necessarily mean it exists. I mean, the appearance exists, but the actual thing may not. We may be just hallucinating something. And that what appears may be something that exists now, it could be something that existed in the past. So all of these things are possible. But the space itself is just the space where everything arises, that's all.
The mind. You said to us, open to look the space.
Of the mind, yeah.
Yeah. It's in the body, in the head.
This is something. Yeah.
I want to say, when you open, if I open, the mind and the awareness and everything, it's come from inside or outside?
That's the question we ask in Vipassana practice, and we'll be asking that question on day 9. And then you can see what you see. You have to wait.
I want to ask about, you said that whenever we experience a mental event, we should observe and let it go.
Well, not let it go, let it be.
Let it be.
Let it go is what we do in thoughts. We have to let it go and come back to the thing. So here we're letting it be, meaning just watching it arise and pass.
Oh, okay. So it does.
Let it be means don't drop it,
Right. Okay.
like we do in the breath. We drop it and come back.
So if the mental event is either love or compassion, should I also let it be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In this practice.
Because this is kind of like the point, isn't it? To be loving and compassionate all the time.
Right, but that's not the point in this practice. The point in this practice is to develop single-pointed concentration. In fact, on that point, we can go to our chart here, which we're going to look at a bit later, but now that you've brought it up, it's a good time to talk about it. Along the side, halfway up, we see a monkey in a tree holding a piece of fruit, and underneath it is number 19. So if we go over on the next page, you see the monkey in the tree, halfway up on the left side, and there's number 19 underneath it. And so if we go on the next page, number 19 says, since virtuous thoughts are an interruption at the time of shamatha meditation, it is necessary to stop them. At other times it is not necessary. And what this is saying is that, and this is is actually going to happen more and more the deeper we go into this practice. Because as we go deeper into this practice and our mind becomes much more calm, more clear, more focused, that actually opens up a space for a lot of creativity to come up. So you'll find that once you start getting deeper into the practice, either doesn't matter if you're observing the breath or the mind, whatever the object, you'll find these things popping up, and they could be a thought of love or compassion or some problem that you've been thinking about for weeks. Here comes the answer. It could be some great idea. It could be all sorts of things. And what this is saying is that that's not the right time to pursue those thoughts. So if any of these things come up, we go, okay, good. I'll attend to that after the meditation, and then just keep to the practice. So that's what this is saying. So yes, you're right, we are to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, but not in the middle of shamatha practice.
How is this practice different than stillness in motion?
The brief answer is which practice? Just the one we did now, or just today's practice?
Yeah, looking the space and looking awareness, or
yeah. So stillness in motion is what we're going to do the day after tomorrow. And the short answer is what we're doing today, and that is the same and different, depending on how you look at it. But you could say it's the same, really. There is some subtle difference, but more or less they're the same practice. And we'll see the day after tomorrow what that subtle difference is.
All the meditation towards the breathing caused the monkey mind more calm and calm during days, and now observing the mind, isn't it the opposite?
Right. So the question is, when we're doing the breath practice, it seemed like the crazy monkey mind was subsiding, but now we're doing this practice, it seems to be maybe the opposite. So actually that's a good question, because that leads me into the point I wanted to make. And that is how we know if we're progressing in shamatha practice. And the standard model that we see normally is this 9-stage model, which we're going to start to look at in a few days' time. And that's particularly used when we're using, like, for example, the breath. But here in this practice of observing the mind and our thoughts, often that model is not particularly used to describe the stages of progress. Rather, we see a 4-stage model. And the first stage of progress in this practice is that we simply notice a waterfall of thoughts crashing down on us, one after the other, non-stop. And if we simply watch that, and don't get caught up in it and don't try and suppress it, then over time, the amount of thoughts will slow down a little bit. So at the next stage of progress, instead of a waterfall of thoughts crashing down on us, it's more like a fast-flowing river of thoughts. And if we watch that fast-flowing river of thoughts, the amount of mental content coming up will slow down, and we'll start to see larger and larger gaps between when one thought finishes and the next thought starts, so a lot more stillness there. And so the third stage will be more like a slow-moving river. And if we keep watching, then eventually that slow-moving river of thoughts will empty into a still lake of stillness. And our mind will be completely still. So what we often notice at the beginning of this practice is this, that there's a waterfall of thoughts crashing down. So it could seem like my mind has gone crazy, because now we're actually looking at the mind and noticing how much mental content is there. Because usually we're not focusing on that, we're often distracted by all sorts of things. So we don't really notice how much things are going on in our mind. And of course, if we get caught up into those things, then the mind will get agitated, or if we're too tense. But the first sign of progress is simply noticing this, just how much mental activity is really going on in our mind. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, from the breathing side and from this side, I really reach to the same place.
Exactly. So what you will find is that whether you're doing this or you're focusing on the breath, you'll come to the same point. Your mind will be calm, clear, focused. Actually, on that point, one other thing I wanted to mention is that there are three qualities of mind. So remember, we're cultivating relaxation, stability, clarity. As we do that, there are three qualities of mind which manifest more and more, regardless of whether we're using the breath, the mind, resting in awareness, whatever the object. The first one, of course, is we're cultivating clarity. So what you'll notice is that your mind becomes more and more clear. And as we go deeper into the practice, then as we can really see here, our mind starts to become very still. So the second quality is non-conceptuality. Meaning there's not a lot of discursive things going on. So this is really the factor of stillness. And then the other thing that really starts to manifest a lot is bliss. Our mind becomes very joyful. Normally now, for our mind to be joyful, there needs to be an object that makes the mind joyful. But this bliss is part of the quality of the mind itself. And so when the mind becomes calm, clear, focused, that natural quality of the mind just starts to manifest more and more. Now, all the meditation manuals warn the meditator about these experiences because all of them are very nice experiences. And it's very easy to get caught up in them with craving and grasping. Oh, that's so nice, I like that. And of course, if we do that, our practice will come to a grinding halt. So rather than getting caught up in these experiences as we go further into the practice, rather use them as signposts that our practice is going in a good direction. And then use these very experiences to go deeper into the practice. Because when our mind is clear, still, and blissful, that's exactly the time where we can go much deeper into the practice. Rather than just going, oh, I like that, I want that. And then the practice grinds to a halt. A little bit more to talk about that, but I'll leave that for another day. Okay, last question, then we need to go into this evening's topic. 2 questions, okay.
Sorry. For clarity, what do you mean by, which version of mind are you talking about when you say that clarity is increased? Like, what does it mean when you get...
Version of mind.
So is it the Buddhist concept that mind is the conceptual thinking one, or is this the...
Mind is mind. Mind can be conceptual, non-conceptual, all of that is mind. So here, we're just talking about that... that everything appears in a more clear way to our mind.
But aren't you experiencing fewer things to appear more clear?
Yeah, but the space of the mind also becomes very vivid.
Okay.
So if there's an appearance, that'll be very vivid and clear. And if there's just stillness, if there's a space, that'll also be very vivid.
And then my other question was, what makes certain temperaments or personalities appeal to objects like the breath versus the mind? Like, is there something about why it feels easier for some people than others?
Oh, I think there are many factors. Yeah, it can be cultural, it can be environmental things, it can be just the type of person you are, it can be many things. Okay, let's go on to this evening's topic. So, yesterday we talked about the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is the foundation of all Buddhist traditions. It's the first teaching that the Buddha gave after achieving enlightenment. And we saw there that in the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha's being like our doctor. He's diagnosing our condition, and he said our condition is one of dukkha, this unsatisfactory state called dukkha. Why are we stuck in this state? Because of our mental afflictions. So that's the diagnosis. We're stuck in this state of dukkha due to our mental afflictions, particularly our distorted view of reality. And then the prognosis was that we can be cured, we can achieve a healthy state. And then the fourth noble truth is the cure, the truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, the medicine. Now, the Buddhist assertion is that we're stuck in this state of dukkha, not just in this life, but life after life after life. And this cycling life after life in a state of dukkha is called samsara. So samsara is not a place. This is not samsara. Samsara is a state of mind. If our mind is contaminated by the mental afflictions, we are stuck in samsara. And this word samsara is a Sanskrit word we can divide into two. The prefix sam means like fully or thoroughly. Sara is coming from the root sur, which means to go. So samsara sort of means like fully going. It means we are going round and round and round and round and round in this state of dukkha, life after life. So often this word samsara is translated as cyclic existence. We are cycling life after life in this state of dukkha. But of course, the Buddha's prognosis was that we can be liberated from this cycle of existence called samsara. That we can achieve this healthy state, the cessation of all suffering and its causes. And this healthy state, this state of liberation, is called nirvana. So again, nirvana, like samsara, is not a place. It's not like when we achieve liberation, we end up somewhere over there, or in an alternate reality or something. Nirvana is again also a state of mind. So if we eliminate all mental afflictions, therefore all suffering, we are in nirvana. The word nirvana, again, can be broken into three. The prefix nir is a little bit like sam here. It sort of means fully. Va can have two meanings here. It means to cool and to blow. And na is a suffix meaning the act of. So nirvana is the act of fully blowing out, or the act of having fully cooled. So there are two etymologies here. This one, the idea of cooling, in that often we see nirvana depicted as the moon. In fact, in this Wheel of Life chart, we have the Buddha up here, and this is a thing this chart we'll look at tomorrow evening, is a depiction of how we're stuck in this cycle of existence called samsara, but also how to break free. So the Buddha's outside this wheel of existence depicting samsara, and he's pointing over to the side here, and up the top here is a round object, and this is the moon. And so that's nirvana. And the reason the moon is used is based on this etymology here, is that now, like the heat of the sun torments us, likewise, we are tormented by the heat of our mental afflictions. And if we eliminate those mental afflictions, the mind is cooled from the torment of the mental afflictions. Just like the light of the moon has a cooling effect, whereas the light or the heat of the sun has a tormenting effect. So that's this etymology of cooling and using the moon symbolizing nirvana. Our mind is cooled from the torment of the mental afflictions. Just like the moon's light is cooling rather than the heat of the sun is tormenting. Then the other etymology here is to blow, to fully blow out. And this we often find in many of the Theravada Buddhist traditions. When we achieve this state of nirvana, and then this life finishes, then this body and mind that we have is completely blown out. And the analogy there often given is like a candle light is blown out. And so that's the symbolism here of nirvana, that our contaminated body and mind are completely blown out, extinguished. So that's the two etymologies of the word nirvana. And so that is the healthy state we are striving for to overcome this cycle of existence called samsara. And remember in the Four Noble Truths we saw that we are stuck in this state of dukkha because of our mental afflictions and actions. In particular, the underlying mental affliction is this distorted view of reality. So what I'd like to briefly do now is have a look at that process. How is it that our distorted view of reality leads to mental afflictions, it's driving our behaviour, and we're resulting in the state of dukkha? So for that, we have a chart in your booklet, this suffering and its causes chart, on page 9. So let's have a look at that. And in this chart, we're sort of using the idea of nature of reality that comes in the Mahayana. That's this idea of emptiness. So that's the philosophical system we're following here in describing this process. And this process has 6 steps. At the first step, we have what's called seed of ignorance. So remember, ignorance here is our distorted view of reality. And in this particular context, we're talking about this distorted view of grasping onto independent me, independent objective world. And seed of ignorance means habit of doing that. And this is not something intellectual, it's instinctive. So we have the habit of instinctively grasping onto independent me, independent world. And according to Buddhism, we've had that since we're born and well before. And when we look out on the world, everything appears to us to exist completely independent of us. But this view of emptiness that we're going to look at on day 9 is saying that things do not exist like that. Which means that, so we are now having this what's called dualistic appearance. There appears to be an independent me and an independent world. But this view of emptiness is saying things are not existing like this. So this appearance that we are receiving is deceiving us. Therefore it's called mistaken dualistic appearance. Now, everything has always appeared to us in this way. Everything we've ever experienced has appeared to exist independent of us. And so there's no reason to question these appearances because we've never seen things in any other way. And if we ask anyone else, everyone else will agree with us. Yeah, that seems to exist independent of me. So we never question these appearances. We just accept them, which is step 2. So step 2 is ignorance. So now we are grasping onto independent me, independent world. Again, this is not something intellectual, it's instinctive. And as I think briefly mentioned already, in every one of our experiences, we have a mental factor called feeling. And the word feeling in Buddhism doesn't mean emotion. Feeling means simply experiencing things as either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral.